Good afternoon, everyone. I like that. Let me try that one more time. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, that sounds great. I want to welcome you guys to Patience Day 2023. Truly appreciate it. And in true patience fashion, we're going to open up with a voice from the community. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Barbara Palmer.
Thank you, son. Good afternoon, everybody. As stated, my name is Barbara Palmer, and I am so excited to be here with you today. And I am truly honored that you decided to take time out of your busy schedule to come and see us today. I am a graduate of the Patience Professor program, and so very, very proud of that. And being a part of this program has changed my life in so many wonderful, positive ways. I'm not going to take too much time, but I do want to say this. I hope you can stay for the entire program, but more importantly, I hope you have an opportunity to visit the health fair, which will open at 3 o'clock today. You will hear and see many opportunities that you can take back to your community to help you not only with your own health and your own problems, but with your community. Being a part of this program will help change the world. This program, what I love about this program is that they truly listen to what the patient has to say. That's not fluff. That's the absolutely truth. Because if it was fluff, I wouldn't be standing here today. Because Miss Barbara only do what Miss Barbara wants. No, it's right. But this program truly cares about us. I want you to take the time to see what's available in our community outreach center. And I hope you can come and join us in making your voice be heard. So sit back, relax, have a good time.
Thank you, Barbara. Appreciate those kind words. Right now, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of what to expect from Patience Day. Patience Program hosts Patience Day to give back to the community of West Baltimore by providing a space for education about research, a discussion about health topics of importance to the community, and a health fair with various health resources. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our next guest. And this went to print before the new adjustment. So I know it says here, interim dean, professor of pharmaceutical science, but that's not it no more. She is the dean of School of Pharmacy. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome Sarah Michael. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rodney. Yes, it's a title I have to get used to. It was officially, I'm interim dean until Sunday, and then I'm the dean. So a couple more days. So hello, everyone. I'm really pleased to see such a diverse group here today for Patience Day. I'll put this down, I'm not as tall, right? This afternoon promises to be full of education, fellowship, community, and information sharing. I want to first start by thanking Dr. Daniel Mullins, our community partners, and the entire Patience team for their efforts in coordinating what promises to be a fulfilling afternoon. I'd also like to thank the University of Maryland, Baltimore's Community Engagement Center, where you're sitting now, for hosting this wonderful event. So since its inception in 2013, the Patience program has become a national leader in patient-centered research. That also means they're celebrating their 10th anniversary this year. Congratulations. This is wonderful. So that's 10 years of working with the community to improve health outcomes. Congratulations again. I'm going to have you clap again. So some people ask me why the Patience program is located within the School of Pharmacy. What's the connection to pharmacy? Well, the University of Maryland School of Pharmacy is dedicated to addressing issues such as mental health. And pharmacists are one of the most trusted healthcare professionals, placing the School of Pharmacy in a unique position to build trust. The foundation of our work is to build trust in the community and to ensure adequate representation and diversity in effectiveness trials so that the drugs produced work for everyone, and so that patients can make the best healthcare decisions for themselves based on the options presented to them. We can develop the best drugs in the world and research the best ways to be healthy, but the patient must be an active partner to have a healthy nation and healthy communities. We can have the most spot-on diagnoses, but the patient must be able to understand their healthcare choices and trust their clinicians and the healthcare system. That's what patient-centered outcomes research is all about, working with patients to co-develop research based on questions that patients themselves have about medical conditions. So I'd like to share a few highlights of the Patients Program with you to demonstrate the program's commitment to listening to the voice of the community and partnering with them to deliver health solutions that are important to their community. So this summer was the second year of the Patients Professors Academy. I think we just saw a graduate of that. It's a free 5-week virtual program of interactive components led by patient advisors and content experts. And since the inception of the PPA, which is the Patients Professors Academy for short, in 2020, it's several hundred graduates of the program have gone on to advise companies, government agencies, community academic partnerships, and other entities on ways to make clinical and translational research more relevant, appealing, and diverse. And we look forward to the future growth of this very powerful and important initiative. Again, thank you for this wonderful participation. And so today in our first panel, you'll learn about one of our Patients Grant Awards, Co-Pillar, a partnership to create patient-centered outcomes research focusing on mental health. We're fortunate to have today with us 3 of the members of the Community Advisory Board for the award. I think I just met a couple of you. And it's community advisors such as these who are true partners to co-design and co-develop research projects with the community. We're so fortunate to hear from 3 local Baltimore authors today as well, with a real national presence due to their latest books. Thank you, the authors, for sharing your talents and your time with us to discuss your mental health journeys. You will hear from them and their important work in the mental health space in the second panel today. So we're here this afternoon to learn from each other about our respective efforts related to patient-centered research, and to welcome the community to join in for these discussions, and to provide resources at a health fair for which attendees will gain valuable information on how to live the healthiest lives possible. So patient-centeredness means putting patients at the heart of all we do in healthcare research and delivery. And your presence here this afternoon, taking time out of your day to be here, really demonstrates your commitment to this philosophy. And so again, I'd like to do another round of applause. I'd like to close by giving a round of applause to the patients' programs, the panelists, the speakers, and Dr. Mullins, and all of you for sharing your lived experience and your time with us today. Thank you ever so much.
Introduce our next moderator for our first panel. She is a familiar face to the Patients Program. She's also, I would like to consider maybe a Patients Program vet, so to speak. She's helped us out a lot on a lot of projects. And she, too, is a trusted messenger for us with the Patients Program, and Dr. Erica Lewis. And going to join us also is Lou Cooper. We got Matthew Lawrence. And the Orioles didn't get it done for us, so we got a pinch hitter for Jasmira, our guest. She was sick, but we do have someone standing in, Gail Graham.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's really wonderful to be here, and I am so fortunate to have this panel, which I don't know if you can tell, but when they leave, their shoe game is absolutely amazing. So that needs to be said. I just can't let it go. So let me start off by introducing you to this amazing panel. So first we'll start with Gail Graham. She's an HIV/AIDS activist, and she has dedicated her life to the fight against HIV and AIDS. Gail has served as the director of Mount Lebanon Baptist Church HIV and AIDS Ministry Outreach Service for over 24 years. Next, we have Matt Lawrence. He's a former Baltimore Raven and current founder of Lawrence International. Oh, we have a fan. It was the Ravens or the International? All right. So Lawrence International is a humanitarian organization created to serve people, but he is also an ordained minister. So thank you. And last but certainly not least, we have Luke Cooper. Now, he's an entrepreneur, but not just a regular one, a serial entrepreneur, growth leader, and author. He's a partner at Latimer Ventures, an investment fund focused on supporting underrepresented technology founders. He's also a UMB Presidential Distinguished Scholar. So if you'll give it up for our panel one last time. So we know that mental health impacts and is impacted by other pillars of health: spiritual health, financial health, and also, so spiritual health, financial health, and what's the last pillar? Mental? Physical, thank you. And so these folks really represent those pillars, and they're gonna tell their stories and the work that they do with mental health and mental health services through their pillars of health. So I'd first like to begin this panel by discussing and having the panel discuss how they promote mental health. And so I'd like to know, what does mental health mean to you, and how does it show up in your life?
Sure, I'll go first. So mental health is such a big phrase, such a big word, and we're all in community, right? We're all in community at different levels, and so what it means to me is, how tight is your community, right? So how tight is it? Whether it's family, whether it's friends, who's supporting you? In the NFL, when you're playing out there on Sundays, it's Purple Friday, right? Whoop, whoop. And so it's Purple Friday is community. So when I'm having a tough day at work with the Ravens, I know that I have the Baltimore community to help me, right? And when we win, when we lose, I have the Baltimore community to help. And so what it means to me is support and help, even if we lose, and I tried my best knowing that there's people around who will still support me at my lowest. And that, to me, has gotten myself, my organization, my folks, just so much farther on a minute-to-minute basis, right? Because, we get carried away when we talk about winning the Super Bowl, right? So we got to talk about this play. That's right. Because, the linebacker's coming to tackle me, right? So what's the mental health surrounding each second and each minute, and who's around me there each minute to help me, guide me, instruct me, to one, hold me accountable, to help me understand that I am the best and I am going to achieve my goal. So what it means to me is kind of those three things: accountability, being present, and knowing that I can do what I'm here to do.
Thank you.
And mental health for me is very personal, because when I was diagnosed with HIV, I became depressed. I went through a series of mental health breakdowns. And so as I went through those and had to find therapy, which was appropriate for me, I've actually went into Jock's Initiative, which is a leading HIV/AIDS center here in Baltimore. I walked in there just crying, and I said, I need help. I didn't have insurance or anything, and I was just broken. And I said, I need help. And they took me in that day, hugged me, and found me a therapist, and said, we will work with you. And they gave me services even without having insurance. And so from that, I said, I'm giving back to my community also. So as I'm learning, and through my HIV/AIDS ministry with Mount Lebanon Baptist Church, I give that back to my community, So whenever I run into anybody and I see they're going through some things, I can give them resources to let them know that they're not the only one going through it, that, therapy does help, medication does help, and that you can, rebound from it. And there's nothing wrong with it. We're already living with the stigma of HIV/AIDS. We don't have to live with the stigma of mental health because there's nothing wrong with getting help. That's something everybody goes through, but we're just strong enough to admit that we're going through it and we're getting help.
Yeah, and for me, I just want to first just take a moment and honor these two stories. I think it's so important to tell your narrative story in a way that's authentic, real, grounded in lived experience and your reality. And I'm just so thankful to sit alongside these two folks as we build out this program and do all this great work. Mental health for me means like how you take care of yourself. It's all the things that they were talking about in terms of community, these institutions that we need to be a part of the story and the narrative, which I think is part of the reason why this Co-Pillars program is so important. We're finally getting these institutions to understand how they can engage with the community in a way that's real, right? In a way that can develop trust, and I think it changes over time, right? So like I had a hard time, forgiving my father growing up. I grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I'm not from Baltimore, but my kids celebrate Ravens Fridays just like everybody else. I've been here 22 years, and I came here from Bridgeport, Connecticut. I grew up in Pequannock's housing projects, which is one of the toughest housing projects to grow up in the 80s and 90s. It was, torn down in the early 2000s. But, growing up there, you are addressing some kind of mental health challenge almost every single day. And our kids, our young adults that are growing up in Lucy or South Carey Street or wherever they're at, they're dealing with mental health crises every day. So it's incumbent upon us to form community around them. The way that I do that today in my work, right, is with my entrepreneurs. I support predominantly Black entrepreneurs writing their first check to become, hopefully, great companies and do great things in the world. And they come from what I come from, right? So what the world often doesn't see is that, the way that they get to the table to begin having the conversation, building a thing from the beginning, they've had to already come through the mud, right, to get to that magical moment. And so the way that I support them is by giving them the constructs and the empathy that they need in the moment, right? One of my founders last week, her mother died of cancer, right? When I started my journey, in 2014 with my last company, my daughter was, stage 4 cancer, and she was on her deathbed, right? And so we got through all of that. I got through all that with community, great people around me, encouraging me. Church communities and all those things are a factor. And my focus for the Co-Pillar will be around the financial well-being and health of our community, because again, if you're broke, that affects your mental health, right? And we don't talk about it enough. So I'm excited to have that conversation today and sit alongside these incredible human beings.
Thank you. And I'm glad that you brought up the idea that mental health is not just mental illness, but there is, this idea of being mentally healthy. But we should talk a bit about stigma, because 50% of those who do need mental health services don't receive them. And oftentimes it could be because of stigma. And so I'd love to hear more about misconceptions. What are some common misperceptions that you've heard or even experienced when it comes to mental health and mental health issues?
I'm all right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's the biggest stigma I think I've ever heard in my life, right? So, I can vouch for Quantic Housing Project. No joke. I'm from Connecticut. As well. Yeah. But I'm all right. I'll be all right. It's learn. This is how we cope. This is what we do with 2 words. It hurts. It's painful. This is what woke me up when I was in college. This when I really start to really want to know more, study sociology in college and get for real with my community. Coming from Hartford, Connecticut, similar to a lot of inner cities around the country, around the world. When I was in college, everybody who looked like me knew someone, a family member or knew someone who was murdered. What? Everyone. I said, everyone? And then you look around in this room, and everyone. So the answer couldn't just be, I'm all right. So then I was like, okay, well, I'm got to get my master's in psych now because this is crazy. Because it can't be everyone. And then my wife is white. She wasn't having those conversations. She was like, murdered? That's crazy. Understanding all the mental gymnastics we have to do. So the stigma around it, right, coming back to the question, the stigma is we have to do so much more gymnastics just to get to the bathroom. Or just seeing a brother with a blue shirt because we didn't forget. And seeing the news report every night. Oh, that's the cashier up at the grocery store, that's her brother. Or that's in our community, everyone. And football recruiters recruit from everywhere across the country, and it just was hitting from every side of the country. I couldn't believe it. And everybody in there was just saying the same thing. I'm all right. I said, oh, shoot. We're going to have to figure something out. And I've been trying ever since. Y'all. So.
Yeah.
How about you? What about common
I mean,
misperceptions?
I think one of the other stigmas that I hear oftentimes, a couple, right, is that you're crazy, right? Like if you got mental health problems, like, or you have some social, emotional challenge, right? Because like again, the environments that we come from, you can't have 300 murders in a city and not like be affected by what's happening here. You cannot, and say I'm okay, right? Like as Matt is saying, but like you're not crazy because you're affected by that. You're human. Right? And I think people oftentimes, don't understand how human you are just as a result of feeling and not dealing with it. I think what has helped me over the course of my career is I've been in therapy throughout. My father went away to prison when I was 12 years old. He did a 20-year bid. But I had uncles and cousins and everybody else, as Matt is describing, either, killed, because of gun violence or in prison behind drugs or gun violence. And so like all of that, kind of forced me to think about my own health and my own wealth, what was important to me. I tried to get wealth and I got that. And then like, I was like, everything else is going to be solved. And it doesn't solve the problem, right? So you've got to take care of yourself in a 360 manner. And so I have therapists that I see monthly, right? And I think there's always been a strong, sort of opinion about that, or against that I think people, sometimes just misread. It is a good thing for you to take care of yourself, just in the same ways that you might go to the gym, work out, or, go get a chiropractic treatment because your neck needs to be adjusted. You need to go get adjusted with your therapist too, right? And so I think that's one of the things that we want to keep debunking. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, Luke. Yeah. So he has tied mental health with financial health and physical health. You could, that's wonderful. Let's go to you. They say that what mental health needs is more sunlight, more candor, and more unashamed conversation. Can you explain the importance of destigmatizing mental health disorders, and what can we do to help reduce that stigma?
That's very important because if you stand up and you show that, that you can have mental illness and that you can get therapy and that there's nothing wrong with that, then more people will get therapy. Because, with the stigma that's out there, it's like they think that you're weak. Mm-hmm. They think that you're violent. It's just so many misconceptions about it. But when you stand up and say, I go to therapy every week, mm-hmm. I do it weekly right now because at this point in my life, I'm going through some things, mm-hmm. and I need to do it weekly, mm-hmm. And when I'm doing better, then I'll do it monthly. And when I'm doing much better than that, then I may do it quarterly. But that makes me strong. That does not make me weak because I know the difference and I'm working on it. And so when we go into the community and we can say that, and then other people see that and was like, okay, and she's working, and she's out here doing things, and she's got herself together, and and she's HIV positive, and she's been living with it, and she's undetectable, and she's still going on, you know. So, you know, we then that's the power of destigmatization of, these the myth of mental health, as much as HIV. But if you still get out there and you just stand up and say that, it makes a big difference, especially in the Black community, because that's the last thing people want to do is to admit that they have mental illness, because, we already have enough on us. When people see us, the last thing you want to admit is that you have that. So, if we can, stand up ourselves and say that and admit that, and, then we can help with that. Sorry.
Can I piggyback on that? Because it was so good. That thing was so good. That thing was good. The Ravens, right? So, billion-dollar organization, right? If you are a player for the Ravens, if you're in here, or if you know someone, or if you know someone who knows someone who's like, I'm all right. If you know someone who is afraid of the stigma, who needs to go to therapy, they just witnessed something traumatic, the Ravens make you go see a psychiatrist. They make you. You need to go because they said, no, this life is no joke. We don't know where you come from. It doesn't matter. You will go see a psychiatrist. Trust me when I say that. Because they know the best thing you can do for yourself is have an emotionally healthy existence. So I'm just telling you, because sometimes if you leave with the Ravens, it might make things easier. So you see, how do you know that? Well, because I talked to a Raven today. He said that everybody, the whole team has to go. That's community, right? They got to go, but then I don't want to go. Listen, well, shoot, I talked to this running back today. He said everyone goes. So there you go. I helped you out a little bit. Hopefully I helped you out.
Yeah, maybe if you can get us tickets, maybe we can talk about that at the game. I think it would be important. Yeah.
I know it.
And so what's really interesting from what's being said is that there is strength in seeking mental health services. It sounds like from everyone's story, you have or are currently in therapy or seeking mental health or services. So just by a raise of hands, me as well, I'm a therapist and I have a therapist. So it shows how, yes, in the audience, yes, others as well. And so it's a sense of strength and a source of strength. So that's wonderful, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about the role of family and community when we're thinking about supporting someone when it comes to mental health needs. Matt, can you tell us what you believe, how you believe family and community may play a role?
Ooh, that's a big one. Family and community. Sometimes family is community. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's not.
Yep.
Boy, that blood don't make your family.
Exactly right.
Right? That community, sometimes they love you better than the family. What do we need? Right? What do we need? What do you need? It changes what you need, but when people give it to you, you know what it feels like, right? I talked about a little bit accountability. People don't like accountability. A good family will give you accountability so you can get to the goal you need to get to. But you need, and it's gonna be grandma and it's gonna be granddad, but it needs to be your peers as well. They know some stuff too now. You need somebody to hold you accountable. You need someone. So when you talk about what does family play? It's everything. Boy, when you can't walk, who's gonna carry you? Boy, they can't walk. Come on. Come on. It's tough. It's tough, ain't it? So understanding the roles, right? Understanding who you are, what your weaknesses are, and what your strengths are, right? I mean, you talk about hunter-gatherer, you have people who cook, you have people who prepare, people who make clothes, everybody has a role. What's your role in your community? If you have not thought about it, think about it, because you need to build a community right now. You get one chance in this life. You get one shot. So think about your role in your community and everyone else's role in your community, because you are better, and do not allow people to make you feel like you're not better at something and you've been doing that thing your whole life, right? So let people understand where you are so they can help you, so you can serve. We are serving. You know I'm talking to these folks after. You know it. Because we need to serve. That's what we do. That's what we're here for. So family and community, those are some of the key things that I think play a big role.
Yeah, and I think Matt touched on something really important. I think there's a role for the larger community as well, and these institutions, right, to better understand and contextualize the worlds from which we come from, right, and how family sometimes means different things for us, right. I believe in extending the definition of family because oftentimes our family is not the traditional family archetype or structure, right? Like when I was just starting my journey, my last company, I hired roughly 1,000 employees for that company, grew it really well, all that. But right before I started that company, I had tragedy. One of my cousins, a first cousin who lived with me when I was growing up, was shot in the head and killed by my other first cousin who was robbing him for drugs, right? And who also at various points growing up lived with me, right? And so, I mean, what investors couldn't understand is like my legs didn't work for multiple days after that. I just couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't move. Literally, just could not move, right? And so I think the reaction to that sometimes is like, well, just, really embrace your family in these moments of tragedy, right? But if you've gone through those kinds of traumatic events, like your definition of family has completely been, changed, right? Forever. And so I think there's a role for not just, us to sort of invite people into the conversation and really, work on our mental health, but I think there's also, room on the other side to better contextualize and understand, the kinds of supports that are necessary. And that's at the heart of this work. That's what we're doing, right? Is to bring it down to a level so that these big pharma companies can understand and contextualize. And we're actually doing this, right? We had a call today, with a big pharma company, and we led the call with one of the members of our community who was affected by gun violence. So, this is not just talk, this is real rap. Yeah.
Were you going to say something, Gail?
Yes, when I think about it as far as family too, it's your family who noticed a difference in you. My best friend noticed when I didn't want to come out the house. She noticed that the way I was. And so she started encouraging me and checking on me more. And so it's our responsibility to look at our family and our community the same way. That's right. We're close to people. And, it's up to us to, look out for each other, look out for our family. If we look at them and we notice that, wait a minute, they haven't been out, I haven't spoken to them for a while. I need to call them. There's something off. Let me check up on them. Let me go visit them and look at them to make sure that they're okay. That makes a big difference because we do withdraw into ourselves. And if we don't have anybody paying attention, we go further and further into that depression, and that mental health issue becomes worse. So when it comes to family and community, it's up to us to look out for each other and to notice those warning signs and to encourage each other to get that help.
So relationship building is important, and finding your family, finding your community. I'm thinking of the Patients Professors program. That's a family. I'm thinking of church. That's a family. And so there's several families. Yeah, thank you. So Luke, let's talk a little technology, shall we? Times have changed, and it feels like this world is really starting to lean in on technology more. And so what role do you think technology can play when trying to support mental health journeys?
Yeah, I mean, I think it plays an important role, but in the same ways that it plays an important role, it can serve as an important, debilitative kind of tool as well, right? Because we're just, as humans, we're hardwired to just see things and compare things, right? Because that's what kept us alive for thousands of years. And so it's easy to just go online because social media and technology is everywhere to see things that you don't have, right? Or that we don't have. And if you grow up in these communities, you're Black in this country, there's a lot that we just don't have. And so I think that sometimes, we've got to know where to put that, right? And how to think about technology from that perspective. But I think technology also has incredible power too, to connect us in ways that, we weren't connected before. And so, using technology to sort of stay connected to people and grounded in a way that, like, helps each other maintain a level of accountability, is one of the many applications of technology today that I think are going to, continue to be supportive of mental health. Yeah, I'll just stop there.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Does anybody else have anything to add before we get to questions from the audience? No? All right, so we're all co-signing on that.
I want to
Yeah.
say something. Reach out. That's the tough part, right? We have a part to play. So, because of the withdrawal. So when you withdraw, right, you know that's your MO, right? You know that's the weakness. You know it. It's okay. But your family, the ones who you have in your circle, you have to tell, you know how I do now. When you're having a good moment, you know how I do. And you can be vulnerable with your family. I say, that's when I need you. Don't give up on me. And on the flip side, if that's not you, know that about your family member, your community member, and you know that's how they do, and you know it's not personal. So when they withdraw, don't take it personal, right? Because now you doubling up on them. And now they lost a family member. So you know they're coming back, right? And they're not doing it to manipulate you. You know that because you know them, and it's in your family. So remember that and try not to get in your feelings if that's you, but also understand that you do have a family around you if you are withdrawing, to be able to say, hey, listen, fight against those thoughts and fight against what you have to, because people are here for you.
That's wonderful. Thank you. So we have quite a few questions from the audience. Let's move through all of them. And so if you can be brief but powerful, let the Lord move you, but in a very concise way, that would be wonderful. Okay, so what motivates you on a daily basis? So we're talking about motivation here. What gets you up in the morning and keeps you going?
I mean, I think about, so a lot on a personal level, my kids, I have a 14 and a 12-year-old, and I get so much energy from them, and I want to deliver to them a beautiful world so that they can inherit that and then make it better for everybody else, long after I'm gone. So that's one of the things. But I also think about all the roses, right, that are just hidden under the ground, right, that just never get there. They're all in the cemeteries, around Baltimore, places like Baltimore. All the lost potential, right, that the earth never really got to, sort of materialize here, right? Like just in sunshine alone, just like 2 minutes of sunshine is enough energy to fuel the entire earth for a year. 2 minutes of sunshine, right? And so you think about all the lost energy and lost possibility and potential of the folks who just never got there, or who today can't get there. So those are some of the things that motivate me every single day and bring me back to my why.
Gotcha. Thank you. Anyone else? What motivates you?
Again, my children also, I have a 34 and a 36-year-old. But besides them, it's my purpose in life that I've developed, that my God-given purpose that I never knew until I developed HIV. And then I realized that I had a purpose. And then once I started meeting my pastor, who through meeting him, I met Dr. Daniel Mullins, who, once you say something to him, that's like the worst thing you could do, because so I wake up to, emails and conferences and different things that, I'm privileged to be a part of. So now I'm just waking up smiling because I know what I have to do, and I'm a voice for the patients, and I'm a voice for my family.
So Luke, and I want to give you a chance to answer. Matt, do you have anything that motivates you?
My family.
Yeah.
My family, huge. Today's Finish Friday. So when I drop my girls off, every day we have a different day. And so today's Finish Friday. Make sure you finish. Everybody's tired. Everybody's cranky. Yeah. The little first graders with you are going to be cranky. Yeah. But you have an opportunity to finish in a high fashion. So make sure we do that. Yeah. So, my kids and also folks in my nonprofit, my kids in my nonprofit, just making sure that we fight, and we finish.
Sounds great. Thank you. So, Luke, this question is for you. How did you get to the point of forgiving your father? What was the revelation or turning point that allowed you to truly forgive?
Yeah, I mean, you got to contextualize things, right? In the same way that we're trying to get these big pharma companies and the folks that want to work in our community to learn things, they got to learn about us first, right? And understand like some of the limitations that exist within our community, but also why trust has been broken. And when I started to think that way, it just took time, right? Quite frankly, because I was a young man, in college playing basketball, and going from college to go visit him in prison, and I couldn't tell anybody, right? So like that built up a lot of resentment also in me. But along the way, I just said, well, what happened if I just change the story? Just change the story, meaning that, okay, all this hurt is behind us. You did all these things. You didn't do this. You didn't. What if I just started from the next day and just said, hey, how's your day going, Dad? What's going on with you, right? Like what could start from there? And as we started to build that relationship, things were getting better. He ultimately passed away, 12 years after he got out of prison. But, I had that space of time with him to resolve, right? And I think it's so important. And when you put it in context, the Patience Program is an incredible, organization. Dr. Mullins is great. But like this kind of stuff didn't exist in 1973, 1978, right? Can you imagine? Like we barely have enough resources today in our community to get healthy groceries, or let alone mental health support, right? So like, what would he have had available to him in the 1970s in a place like Bridgeport, Connecticut? Nothing. And so when I started to see it from that perspective, forgiveness, empathy, could come in. And I could get there to a place of real healthy relationship with him. Yeah.
So there was another question around medication and therapy, and how can we explain to the Black community that meds can be helpful, that therapy can be helpful?
Medication can help even out I can't explain it. What goes on in your head, that it just helps with that. But also therapy, it's nothing like going to somebody that don't know you and just spilling your guts.
Yeah.
They're not judging you, and you can tell them everything and get it all out. And then they pick up on some certain things, and they come back, and then you be like, well, yeah, I didn't think about it that way. Or, it may be a good thing, or it may be a bad thing, that you did or something like that. But, when they put it in a different perspective, then you be like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that, or I understand that better. But it's not judgy. But you can actually just, you don't have to worry about it's just you go to somebody that doesn't know anything about you, and that you can just go ahead and tell them everything, and you don't have to hold back. You don't have to worry about, but this isn't appropriate to tell my pastor, or this is, I want to tell my best friend this, but I don't want to hurt her feelings about this or anything like that, but you can just go and say it, and it makes you feel better. I go in there and I tell you, I don't think I'm going to cry. I'm in there crying. But when I come out there, it's like, it's so much better, and, and my therapist picks up on, he'll be like, okay, so I'll see you next week. And I'm like, okay. But then when I'm doing better, he'll say, okay, I'll see you in a month, and then I'm going, so I don't have to see you next week? And he was like, no, you're doing real good. And I'm walking out, and I'm just proud. I'm doing real good. But when I tell him, no, I think I need to see you next week. And then he's like, I'm proud of you, because you picking up on when you need help. And that's a good thing. So therapy is very important. And I highly recommend it for everyone, It's just something about going there. And they have it now that if you even don't want to go in person, you can do it virtually.
Technology.
Technology.
We're weaving
that's
it through.
right.
I like it. Yeah.
That's right. That's one thing. Thank you, COVID. You could do it, and that's one thing that saved us during COVID. You could do it virtually, So that kept us sane.
I can piggyback on that.
Yes, please.
So I'll start it like this. So I have something with me that's just not quite right, right? Because that's how the world will say it, right? But I tell you what, it make me run a hell of a football, right? It makes me get a message across, very clear. It makes me be able to focus. It makes me be able to do things better than a lot of other people. But it may not work for a 6-year-old, right? It may not work for a 9-year-old. So where other people may say it's not quite right, it's more of a saying like, hey, medication, therapy, what you're good at or how your brain works is amazing in certain spaces, right? It works very efficient in certain spaces. But in other spaces, it needs development. So all of us up here can be amazing, and y'all are amazing at certain. Boy, y'all can do that thing when y'all. But when they come over here, and the babies and grandbabies start whining, children are seen, not heard. But oh shoot, but the child done seen something. She need to talk about it. He need to talk. So understanding that going to therapy helps you in the spaces that you're not excelling in, mentally, and physically, so you can understand your whole full picture, if that makes sense.
And the medication helps with chemical imbalance.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yes.
Sometimes we have a chemical imbalance, and the medication helps even that out. So, and if it doesn't work, you can tell your doctor, I'm still not feeling right. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. You have a voice. If something's not working, you tell your doctor that. And they'll be able to stop that medication and try something else. It's the power of your own voice. So, and your treatment. So once you work with your doctor, then you can get better treatment with that. But again, the medication helps with the chemical imbalance, and the therapy helps with you just getting it all out.
So it's like tools. So tools in a toolbox. And so you're just pulling out what you need when you need it. Wonderful. Okay, so this is not quite a question. This is a statement, dare I say testimony. So I'm going to read it to you, and then just tell me what resonates for you, okay? It's okay to self-love. It's okay to have self-care, to have Christ and a counselor. Self-care is essential, not selfish. What comes up for you when you hear that?
I agree 100%.
Okay, we got a cosign. Can you say a bit more?
Because when you take the time out to just take care of yourself, a bubble bath, time to sit and just read a book, a nice glass of wine, no matter what's going on in your life, just to stop and say, let me just do this for myself right now. My key self thing is going to get my nails done. No matter what, well, I'm stopping, I'm going to get my nails done. And I feel so much better after that. Then okay, now I can move on and do the next thing. So I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and I agree too, but I think it extends even further than that. When I think about taking care of yourself, those things are important, right? Like finding those spaces where you can become more whole, whether it's getting in nature, getting your nails done, those kinds of things. But I think self-care also comes in those tiny moments when we're not paying attention, right? And I think just to bring all the work together, right? We work on ourselves, and you go through therapy to recognize in your own body when things are out of line, right? And sometimes you're in a conversation, you're around a group of people, and maybe there's something they say that might trigger you or get a reaction out of you. I think part of self-care is recognizing when that thing is not right with you for whatever reason, and either, coming up with tools to either get away from the conversation or address the conversation differently. Because sometimes those little things, those microaggressions that we might face, for example, will translate into mental health challenges that we later, go unaddressed or we don't deal with. So I think it is those other things, the big things, but I think it's also taking care of ourselves in those small spaces as well.
We have about 30 seconds. So Matt, how does this resonate for you?
If the masks fall down from the compartment above, put the mask on yourself before you put it on the kids. All right? Your children cannot eat if you're starving to death. You have to have enough energy to cook for them. So if you need to rest before you get and before you cook, you better rest because you got people in your family and community counting on you. Again, put that mask on before you put it on the kids.
All right. So thank you so much for the wonderful discussion, the wonderful questions. Could we just give a round of applause to this wonderful panel? Thank you.
I want to direct you guys to our booklet real quick. On page 8 of the pamphlet, we got a dedication to the Patient Professors Academy. If you are a patient professor, please raise your hand. Oh man, that's great. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. This is our second year, second cohort. We're able to graduate 81 this year. Can't remember what the first year was. 90. So over 170 something patient professors out here that are going to be change agents in the community when it comes to community engaged research. So kudos to the PPA staff. They are here. If you see the people in the red shirt, the gray shirt, the black polo shirt like I am, that is the patients program team. And I want to give a special shout out to you guys for all the hard work you guys did during the PPA. And if you flip that page over to page 10, there's a picture of a guy on there with a bunch of gray hair. And it's crazy, that gray hair is crazy. But the Bridge podcast, during the pandemic, we found a way, meaning the engagement team, to still stay connected with the community, and we started a Facebook Live session. That went really well for us, and it kind of graduated to the podcast. I know a lot of you guys finding a way to find your information, whether it's health-related, sports-related, is through that podcast sector. So The Bridge is a podcast that we have right now that we're so excited about. Eric, the guy's taking the picture. We're finding ways to still stay connected with folks and get the information out there as best we can. So if you are a podcaster or listen to podcasts, you can find us anywhere you listen to your podcast, on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple. You punch in The Bridge podcast. Your health, your voice. Moving on. Yes, thank you, appreciate it. Moving on. We're about to get into our second panel. This is a very, very cool panel for me, I like to say, because the next group of panelists and moderator find great ways to stay connected and communicate efficiently to their group, to their communities. You heard Matthew talk about what community is. These 4 people coming up have communities all over Baltimore, particularly in the youth, but particularly in the African-American community, and they do a great job of marking their territory. So without further ado, I want to introduce our next panel. It's going to be a mental health conversation with 3 Baltimore authors. It's going to be facilitated by Joshua Harris. He's a community advocate. And the panelists is going to be Kandwani Fadal, Dee Watkins, and Jennifer Pope.
All right, this is great. This is exciting to be here. My name is Joshua Harris, and I'm excited to have this discussion, much needed, and I'm really excited for us to dive in and hear from this amazing group of authors and people who love Baltimore City and are committed to making sure that we have a better tomorrow than what we have today in the city, and they do it in various different ways. And so what I like to do first to kind of open up the panel, one of my favorite videos online is a video called Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And so I like to open up and have each of our panelists kind of introduce themselves with their why, what drove them to do the work that they do and get involved and become authors ultimately, right? It is not an easy feat. You know, some of us may want to, but it takes a lot to get started, and then to determine what you want to write about and why is critical. So we'll start with Kandwani, if you want to tell us what your why is and what got you into this work in this space.
So I went to Virginia State undergrad in 2011 studying sport management, and I had an English professor who basically changed my life, made me fall in love with reading, and I fell in love with reading. Then I tried to write, started writing, and the first reason I wanted to write a book is because I just realized that, books, they outlive people. You know what I mean? And like everybody, there was a lot of people in my life that was like either dying or, going to prison. So I was just like, I just want to tell my own story. And then, after I self-published my first horrible book, I kind of was just on that journey, and I met people like D. Watkins and several others. And, I just fell in love with, the art and the business of writing as well. But that was like my first, wow.
I wear a lot of hats. College professor, author, television executive, husband, father, and my why is it connects them all. My why is because I'm obsessed with being the person that I needed. That's it.
Jennifer?
Good afternoon, everybody. Um, my why for writing this workbook came out of my own grief process in losing my father in 2018. This was something that I doodled with, experiencing insomnia while I was grieving, and it really worked for me. Um, I have a clinical practice where I have clients, and I decided to use this with my clients, and I got such great feedback from it. I decided to make it a workbook and self-publish because if it could work for me, it could work for you. And I didn't want to be a gatekeeper of something that could be a creative way to treat grief in our city. As you know, we are plagued with it. So I felt that it was my duty and my responsibility to give this to other people.
Thank you so much for that. And hopefully that helps folks understand a little bit more about you all and the work that you do. And Jennifer, I want to come back to you. You're a mental health professional. And so if you can talk to us a little bit about, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but one, the importance of being able to have these conversations around mental health. And then two, like you said, you kind of touched it on your own process, and that's why you decided to write about it. Can you elaborate on us of why you saw that it was important to share that process with people in your book?
These types of forums are very important. For many, many years in the Black and brown communities, it was looked down upon to be experiencing mental health issues, mental health crisis, to have a mental health diagnosis, but we actually have more in common than we don't. So having these types of platforms is important because we need to understand that we are interconnected. We have very similar and shared experiences, and we need each other to get through life. Life is tough. So these kinds of forums are important to help, lower the stigma and understand that the person beside you maybe going through something similar and you might have figured out a way to get over it or get through it or make it to the other side of things, and you could help them just by opening your mouth and saying, hey, I went through that too. And for me with this process, like I said, it came to me actually in the pandemic. I don't even know if I would have this book if it wasn't for us being in quarantine. But it really resonated with me, and quarantine allowed us to all sit down. I was a person that was running. I have a business. I'm a mother of 2 twin boys. I'm at sporting events. I'm working, and COVID made me sit down and really understand that you are still grieving, and you need to work through it yourself. People think mental health professionals don't experience these things, but we do. And when I figured out this process actually worked for me, I was actually blown away by it, number one. It helped me go down a rabbit hole to research a little bit more, number two. But also, it inspired me to share this with other people because I know that grief is something all of us experience grief at some point. It's the labor of love. This is our cost to love greatly. But we also need creative ways to process this grief. So I felt it very much my responsibility to make this book and share it with everyone and, give you a different perspective and a different mode of therapy that you could use that could help.
Thank you so much. And now, in the African American community in particular, therapy or mental health can sometimes be considered a dirty word because we automatically think of straitjackets or people that need to be put in institutions. But mental health or mental wellness struggles manifest in different ways, right? It could be anger management. It could be the inability to process emotionally information. And D. Watkins and Kondwani, you both have found unconventional ways to have those conversations about what that looks like through your work. Can you share a little bit about why, and I think it's even more important as a black man to talk about that as black men and how that shows up in our everyday lived experiences?
Age before beauty.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know if that means older or younger, because age could be like, normally the older person is a little more beautiful on the inside. Not out as much.
That's cat, but when I was a kid, you know, I grew up on hip hop, rap, whatever, and you know, people like, you know, Lil Boosie and Tupac and, you know, 3 6 Mafia, you know, they was speaking about their experiences in a way that I never heard before, right? Like as a young boy growing up, you know, you told that you can't express your feelings, or you get your ass whipped for crying, and then you get your ass whipped for not stop crying. It's like a cycle of just don't do this again, you know what I mean? So you know, those artists were the first people that you know, made it okay for me to feel human. You know what I mean? Like, you can be from these environments. Like, back then I couldn't point out where Memphis was on a blank map or Baton Rouge on a map, but it was these people that was from there, you know, with similar experiences, and they made me feel okay to, you know, want to speak about my feelings, and that was that. And I kind of just mimicked that, right? When I started writing poetry, just how I told y'all. And, you know, I had people, professors, educators, people in, you know, universities saying, hey, you talking about, you know, mental health. And I'm like, huh? And they're like, hey, you talking about, you know, the black experience, you know, as it relates to legal housing segregation. And I'm like, huh? I was just talking about how they used to run us out of Canton with baseball bats. You know what I mean? And it's like, you know, and I started going into these spaces, and I just started learning more about, you know, what I was talking about. All I was doing was just sharing my experience. So, you know, when I started getting into the schools, because I was just going to the schools just to get more followers and get more money and stuff like that. They wasn't even paying me back. I don't even know what I'm talking about. It was to get more followers on Instagram, right? And just to, you know, share my videos that I got on YouTube. And then, you know, I had students come to me, whether it's in the classroom or on the streets, they'd be like, you know, like, your book is the first book that I ever read cover to cover, or I never thought that I liked poetry. And, you know, then I'm like, damn, like what D just said, you know, he became somebody that he needed. So I had this epiphany. I'm like, damn, like, you know, you was in college and you had this epiphany, like, yo, like, you love reading, right? And you never liked reading before. So that kind of became a more obligation. And then that's why, you know, I just made that my thing. And that's why I went to grad school. And that's why I'm a professor now. You know what I mean?
I'm not crying because of what he said. It's literally like it's something in my eye.
But it's okay if you're
No, I'm not touched. It's literally something in my eye. I don't want to send the wrong message.
Who got the belt in here? He needs somebody again.
I don't want to send the wrong message and act like I'm more emotionally evolved than what I really am, right? But you know, I have similar experiences to both of my brilliant co-panelists. What I will say is my journey through work and understanding mental health has been a little different. I'm older than Kondwani. I'm from a different generation, so you know, a little bit younger than Noodles, but from than Mr. Rodney. But But we're from a generation where you are rewarded and respected and praised for your resiliency. So if somebody's telling you, I had to walk to school 8 miles, then you have to come back like, well, I walked to school 12 miles on glass with no shoes, right? Whoever's the most resilient, and that's our currency, because we don't have trust funds and we don't have resources and we don't have people investing in us, and we don't summer. We don't even know what that is. Like, what do you summer? Like, we don't know what that is, right? So all we have is our resiliency. So you're telling me to acknowledge depression and pain and low self-esteem and hurt, when where I'm from, the only currency is resiliency. It's literally two things running into each other that don't work. So I think it hit me a little different, because while I'm running through this industry, I was lucky enough to have some talents. So my 8th book comes out next year, but if we're talking about books I edited and co-wrote and ghost wrote, then we're talking around 15. And if you're talking about books I put essays in, we're like in the 20s, right? So I've been lucky to publish and work with all of these different people, all of these, really, really, really people who are way more talented and have way bigger platforms than myself, and have success from that, but I felt extremely empty. Why do I feel empty? I have the career. At the time I had met and was dating the woman of my dreams. I was living where I wanted to live and traveling and doing all of the things I dreamt of doing. Why do I feel empty? And the question is very, very easy. It's because I was lying to myself. I wasn't being the person who I deserved to be for myself, for my family, and for all of the people who invested in me in my career. And I think the first time I really fully understood how to be honest is when I wrote this book. It's not a shameless plug. If you buy it, great. If you don't, it's also fine too. But when I sat down to write this book, I wanted to self-audit. I wanted to think about the many different ways I hurt people, the many ways how I need to make amends with them, how I need to be better for myself, how I need to be able to be fully honest about all of the crazy things that happened to me in my past to my daughter, so that when she makes mistakes, she doesn't feel crazy. She doesn't feel like she's alone, because guess what? Your parents are terrible too, right? So, and when I started being really, really honest about insecurities, about shortcomings, about failures, about just taking away this whole fake facade of being this super person, then I started then I became happy, and I became to have better relationships. I've been a better friend to my friends, a better brother to my siblings, a better husband and a better father, because guess what? It's not about, this is just all like, it's what you see, but what's inside really matters. And how we deal with mental health and how we talk about these things, and how sometimes we're scared to look at the deep, dark, ugly things about ourselves prohibits us from moving forward. And once I started doing that and then being vocal and honest about it, I really, really, really do a number on how much of a terrible person I'm capable of being in this book. So this is why we made the color bright green, so it can maybe look like happy, or like a stick of spearmint gum, like a double mint. I don't know, but originally it was purple. But once I started being honest about how terrible I could be, that was something mentally that I had to overcome, and I've become a better person because of that.
That's
Don't clap. Don't clap. I'm terrible sometimes.
work in progress. That's a really good point, and it leads to kind of my next question. When in Kondwani, you mentioned earlier, you said your first book was terrible, right? And you said it in a joking way, but one, it takes a lot of courage to.
Confirm that.
One, it takes a lot of courage to, like, when you grow up in an environment where people tell you what you can't do and that you can't accomplish this, to step out and do it, right? It takes a lot of courage to overcome all of that. But then, I play sports, I play basketball, and I was watching an interview with Kobe Bryant the other day where they talked about his first playoff game, and he airballed 3 shots in a row, right? and went right back out there and kept shooting and ended up winning the game, right? And people like laugh, like, how could you have the confidence to go back out there after airballing those shots and then become one of the greatest players to ever play the game, right? And so after that, and I want to come to Kondwani and Jennifer to talk about how do you overcome the criticisms, but still be able to do the self-reflection to be able to improve yourself without allowing what externally people have to say to drive you into a depression or to believe that you're a failure and to believe that you can't do better and to push past it. Because those things play a role in why a lot of people deal with mental illness. They don't know how to process the criticisms of the world around them. And so being able to do that, what is it that drove you to be able to do that and continue beyond that?
So speaking of Kobe and basketball, I used to play basketball, and we can set it up later to out the record. But for real, I used to get in the game, we were up by 30 points or down by 30 points. So what does that mean? I wasn't good. People from the neighborhood, we playing Patterson Park, people from the neighborhood come through, keep going, champ. You're going to be the one, champ. You got it. Keep dribbling, keep practicing. And they look at me and be like, stay safe, young brother. And I'll be like, I'm like, so I knew early on, right? Being in the streets, you be, you know what I mean? So that was kind of I realized early that I'm not good. Like, when you good at things, people tell you all the time. And if you bad, you got to find out the hard way, right? Like, when you be, oh, my God, you look so good. Your hair look good. If nobody ever tell you your hair look good, then yeah, Brian don't look good. You know what I mean? That's it, right? So, I mean, I'm just saying what it is, right? But, you know, so when I wrote, my first couple poems, you know, my cousin Avon, my first cousin, he a year older than me. I was at Virginia State, Petersburg. He was 30 minutes up north at Virginia Union. And, you know, him and my homeboy Boo Boo and my best friend Jelante that I met on campus from Roanoke, you know, I read them my first poem, and I was telling Avon, like, you know, I don't want to share these stories about, you know, how my mother tried to kidnap me from school and my father robbing my homeboys and, you know what I mean, house raids and, you know what I mean? I was like, I don't want people to think that I'm crazy. They already think that, but I'm about to talk to girls, and they be like, y'all have Ritas? I'm like, nigga, we can't have Italian ice? But it's the media perception. They think we literally like just a depleted, bombed out city in the richest, you know, state in the country. Okay. I'll say anything. Oh my God, y'all do that? I'm like, yes, we have regular milk and cheese and just like everybody else in the world. So I told him, like, you know, all this stuff I went through. Like, even my freshman year of college, when my grandmother she went to the hospital. Both my mother and father was both, you know, in prison out Jessup, and I lost my best friend and all this going on. So he was like, bro, why would you want to feel crazy? But he was like, you already went through the hard part. And he said, F it, just write it, just go ahead. And February 10th, 2013, my second semester sophomore year, which is hilarious because that's his birthday, February 10th. I didn't even know this guy. You know, that was my first time performing. And I, you know, shared my story, talked about, you know, my life through that. And, you know, it kind of resonated with some people. And, you know, and that kind of was it. And my cousin, you know, said the most simplest thing, but he put that battery in my back and was like, yo, just how you listen to these artists and you talk about your professor, Anna Westbrook, you know, it was your English 101, 102, both semesters your freshman year, you know, why you not paying that forward? And I was like, cool. But then also, you know, years before I got there, Chris Brown had performed and he did a horrible job and they booed him. So I was like, well, damn, if they boo Chris Brown, then what's going to happen to me? I'm not Chris Brown, you know what I mean? But again, early on, like, I knew what I was, and this was one thing that I honestly felt like that I'm that. And that day that I performed, that next day I went to Gandy Hall and changed my major from sport management to English, and it was a wrap. Mr. Senior, Mr. Alpha Eta, you know, I pledged Omega Psi Phi, was part of the English Honor Society, wrote a book, did all this poetry, spread out to the RVA area. And that was the only thing in life that I ever was really, that I felt like I was good at. And I felt like, can't nobody touch me on this level. Writing tip, maybe. Speaking tip, maybe. But when I'm up here and I memorize my poems and I go up, I don't even think about nobody else. And that was like, you know, my start for real. So that's how I built that craziness up. But a lot of that came from my cousin, though.
So you block out
I don't even
the outside. It's about what you...
I be in a whole nother world, bro. I promise you.
That's good. Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about how you're able to process, separate, navigate external criticisms, but also do that internal reflection so that you can maintain your own self, but also want to improve, as Dee Watkins said?
I come from a family where you have to have thick skin. So I learned very early on to take constructive criticism and learned how to be able to separate the message from the intent. So being able to know that, you can try something and fail, but that does not speak to your character and who you are. That's just something that you did. So I wasn't afraid to try to, step out and do things that I've never done before. Because, at the very minimal of it, I tried it and I did it. And if it wasn't successful, it was a lesson to help build me to success. So I would have to thank my family of predominantly women, very, very strong women, very stoic women who made me have tough skin. It wasn't an option. You had to. But I also, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up my grandmother, who was such a huge and large figure in Baltimore City for many, many years. Irona Pope. And she told me from a young age, you are my granddaughter. You have the Pope name. You have a legacy to put forth in this world. So she expected nothing but greatness from me. And even when it was in a way that I didn't feel was loving, I knew it had purpose. So I always had a level of resilience, a level of responsibility that I'm carrying my family name. I can't be nothing but great because my grandmother said so. And who gonna go against my grandmother? And if anyone knew her, you could not go against my grandmother. So between knowing that if you fail, that's just a stepping stone to your success, but also understanding that it's greatness in you. I had both of that instilled in me from the time I was born. So I took that and knew that those dreams and goals and aspirations that I had, I wasn't scared to do them because even if I did fail, I tried it and I did it. And it ultimately will lead me to something else that I could be great at. So I'm not scared to fail.
Awesome. Dee Watkins, I want to come to you. And you, clearly we know that you write a lot, but you also do a lot of speaking and you talk to a lot of young people oftentimes. And so my question for you would be, how do you balance your ability to tell a story when you're writing with any responsibility that you feel to address having conversations around mental health in a realistic way that connects with people?
She gave him the fun question. When I talk to if I'm addressing politicians, if I'm addressing a program full of educators, if I'm talking to college students, if I'm talking to high school students, it's one thing. All of these different gigs. I'm talking to you guys. I don't know what you guys do or how you're connected, but you look like friends. But regardless, it doesn't matter who I'm talking to. I just tell the truth. I just tell the truth. I look at my 3-year-old in the eyes, and when she makes art that is good, I tell her it's beautiful. When she makes art that is terrible, I tell her it's terrible. Because it's all we have. It is all we have in this human experience that we share. People are lying to people all of the time. People are telling people that, like I had this conversation with one of my friends the other day. He was telling his nephew that he's great. That he's great. Like you're great. And I'm like, yo, yeah, I think you're great too. But let's bring this in for a second. How? Why are you great? You're not great because your uncle says you're great, right? You're great because you work really hard at the things you do. You work really hard. We can't have these souped up kids walking around thinking they're gonna change the world. Unless we add that work ethic. Like when your grandma told you you was great, and you had that work ethic too. You knew you had to work hard to be able to start a project and finish it, right? Because if you start the project, if you start the project and you don't finish, you know, you still can be great, but it just hits different when you complete the goal and the task. So for me, I try my best to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and how you can never, ever, ever really have the good unless you have the bad and the ugly. The good isn't good if you don't have anything to compare it to. The bad isn't bad if you don't know it can actually be better. So I speak the same language to everybody, and it's work for me.
Every picture can't go in the refrigerator.
Every picture can't go in the
It
fridge.
can't.
Very true. That is very true. I agree.
That's a good quote. Have any of you received any feedback from people who've read your book about the impact on them in processing and dealing with their own mental health and awareness of their mental health?
Someone read one of my essays and said that she was going to leave her family. So I guess that worked out.
Okay.
No, a lot of people talk about with a lot of just speaking for the work that that I've done, that I know about some of the things that Contawani and Devin has done. They've had the ability to make sense of the realities that they live in. Like I'm not from this place, and I'm not being treated like this or policed like this or schooled like this for no reason. It's policy. It's a lot of bad decisions made by that we can't control, but we have the ability to make these places better, or to go different places as well. So I'm thankful for that.
Jennifer?
Like I said, I started using this workbook with some of my clients in session, but I've also had other colleagues that have used it in group settings, used it in schools with children, and the feedback I always get is, I never thought music could do this. And knowing the power of music and giving it a therapeutic focus lens was giving people the ability to kind of dig into themselves and understand that some of the tools that we have to heal come from within. So it gave people a sense of power, and it also gave them, like I said, a different way to approach mental health treatment. And most people love music. Most people use music therapeutically. They just didn't know that's what they were doing. So I've gotten a lot of good feedback from the book. But the most powerful feedback that I've gotten is when a mother and daughter use this workbook to communicate between each other and opened up some old wounds, and they were allowed a space to communicate and use songs in a way that they could not use words to talk to each other. So I thought that was super powerful, and that opened up a whole trajectory of healing between those two. So I think that just the power and healing power of music, because it can go rather deep, is amazingly underused. So I hope that this book can kind of put that therapeutic focus on it.
Condona?
I feel like the biggest feedback that I get off my work is that, and again, this wasn't like a plan. I don't write it like this, but a lot of people say that I know how to write about in detail grief, in a way that's like accessible, not propaganda. You know what I mean? It's just like, I guess I can use the word beautiful. I don't know, but that's what people say, but People, it's like, you know, blasphemous or taboo to speak about death. And I'm like, that's the only thing that we all share. We all going to the upper room one day. I'm like, why you don't want to talk about it? And again, like what Dee was saying about lying to children. Like, you know, I lost my little brother in a house fire. He was 7 years old. I was 10. You know what I mean? It's like people tell you that old people die. They don't tell you that, you know, it's going to be 350 murders a year. And, you know, the grandparents going to outlive their grandkids. Don't nobody tell you that until you find out on your own. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, I just be, you know, speak about those experiences because I don't care. People be like, I don't care that I'm sad. They be like, you be writing poetry for girls? I'm like, no. I had in my room crying. No, I write about this. They be like, oh, you a poet? You a poet? Then they have my poem and they be like, ooh. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, this ain't Love Jones. This ain't that. This is not Love Jones. This is not no Disney Channel. This is Down the Airways Bottom. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like that's you know, but that's just who I am. I really don't care. You know what I mean? That's like where when I try to write and I try to write about other stuff, but it's where I always, you know, excel at the best. To me personally, that's how I feel. You know what I mean? So I think that a lot of people say that about my stuff is that like I help them deal with grief or understand grief or, you know, just, you know, not just speaking about a certain reality, but like how and why these realities were created for real.
Thank you. This is a question from the audience. And each of you, in order to do this work, you have to go into a space and become really vulnerable and tell stories. So the question is, have any of you received backlash for being so vulnerable about your life, your experiences, in your work?
All right, so look, I never really received backlash, but like I was so honest where I'd be looking up however many years later, like, damn, I really let people inside my grandmother's house and everything. They know what day I was born. They knew when my mother got out of rehab. They knew my brother. So I'm like, they already, it's like a cheat. Like, say if I meet a girl, right, they can just Google my stuff. And I got to find out the old-fashioned way. What's your favorite color? You like cantaloupe? You know what I mean? So it's like, I got to go through that. But then I really, for real, they know everything about me. And then they act crazy like, you knew what it was. Where's this coming from? Did you read my stuff or not? Follow the trail of breadcrumbs to the boy you met at the bar. 9 Tito's and cranberries later. Then I be feeling disrespected, like, do you listen to me? Did you read my stuff? And they be lying, but whatever the case may be. But, you know what I mean? I never really received backlash, but I have, you know, I had people, you know, who come into my life. Like I say in this poem, I say just because, you know, with details, points in my life, that don't mean that you know me. You don't know me. Like the most disrespectful somebody said to me not too long ago was like, I know you more than you know yourself. I said, I said, what is you talking about? I don't even talk. You don't know
It's
what
like
my
bad when your mama said,
Yo.
but when somebody in your friend group said, it's like we like the same age.
And I'm just like, yo, like, and like my man Tariq Torre, who's a poet, one of my favorite writers, you know, he say, people in Baltimore, they be playing with people every day, and you don't know what a person past 48 hours is like. So if you play with somebody, my mother told me, she said, like my father told me not to hit girls, right? Don't put your hands on women. My mother told me if somebody hit you, put your hands on them. But she also said you cannot be upset how they react. So you can do that, and whatever they do, you got to deal with that as well. You know what I mean? So he was telling me, like, yo, you don't know what nobody past 48 hours is like. So for you to read something and to think you know me, or you read something, you know, from somebody else from my neighborhood thinking you know me, that's disrespect. You don't know me. I'm trying to still know myself. You don't know me. I don't even remember what I ate the other day. Talking about some, you know me, you know what I mean? So I think that not really backlash, but it just be a lot of I guess I can use the word ignorance, or if it's mainstream media or whatever, but it's somebody, or maybe that's just how people are, they ego, they pride, I don't know, but people think that they be knowing what's going on without asking people questions. Oh, I think that they want, you could have just asked them. I think, I don't care about what you think. Just ask me. Oh, I thought that you would love this. No, I hate it. But if you would have asked me, I would have told you that. And that's it. You know what I mean?
D.
To answer the question, yes, and yes. Definitely severed relationships. Definitely people in different parts of my family who don't want anything. I'm not gonna say they don't want nothing to do with me, but like they got really, really, really upset at some of the things I wrote, and I always tell them like, yo, you can write your own book, you know, you have a perspective too, but when you get into this work, you don't really get into the work to try to make everybody happy or try to make a bunch of friends. You get into it to tell hard truths. I always try to be fair. I always try to get the other side. I've even reached out to people to get the other side, and sometimes they don't reach back or they don't want to talk until this becomes a real thing. When it's an idea, then it's like but when it's a real thing, sometimes people get upset. I've been sued. Well, people tried to sue me multiple times. Some police officers tried to sue me when I did a podcast for Undisclosed. At least I think it was maybe like 100 people tried to sue us for the television show We Own the City we did. We just got past our last lawsuit. I don't have to literally do anything. I don't even open the emails. It's like HBO has really good lawyers. But again, people are trying to sue because you're telling hard truths, and nobody. If you ask me how my day was, you don't want to hear like some of the stuff he just said. You don't want to hear the real story. You want to hear, oh, it's great. How are you? Is what you want to hear. You don't want to hear like, oh yeah, I hangover. I just threw up. My nephew bit the edge off a table. Like you're not trying to hear all that. You want to hear, oh my God, everything's amazing. So yeah, in doing this work, one thing I'll say, I'll leave it at this. You don't have to do anything wrong to make someone upset. You don't have to do anything wrong to be sued by the police department and multiple times. And and then sometimes your gut feeling is wrong. It's a real thing too.
Jennifer.
Yes. Specifically as a clinical social worker, you are taught in school to not self-disclose. And they give you a multitude of reasons why you shouldn't self-disclose. However, with this process, it was important for me to self-disclose. Number one of the many stigmas that we have around mental health is people don't believe that therapists are human and people too. And I feel that it is very important in Black and brown communities that we connect with people with a level of transparency because we have very similar experiences. We come from the same neighborhoods. We had the same teachers. We went to the same schools. Our family members had the same issues as well. And I think that you have to be mindful about how much you self-disclose as a clinician. However, I do know that having a small level of self-disclosure with clients who have a great mistrust with the psychiatric community can make a huge world of a difference in your therapeutic relationship and how well you work together to get to those therapeutic goals. So in this process, I really didn't care about the self-disclosure in my grief process because my clients need to know that I'm human too. They need to know that I experience, hurt, grief, and frustration and anger and all of these things. And people have this false perception that all therapists are well put together. Guess what? We're not. We are not. We go through things very similar. We might have the tools to oversee things. We might have the empirical data to tell you how you can do things better. We have a focus. We have a skill set. We have a certification. So that's what makes it easier to go to a licensed clinical therapist. But we still people too. We still go home to families who, are toxic. We still have family members who have substance abuse issues. We have, may have grown up in foster care or, been in a bad marriage and gone through divorce. We are people too. So I think that it is very important to have a certain level of transparency and disclosure with your clients because they need to know that no, you're not crazy. No, this is not just happening to you. And if you have found a way to overcome something, I think it's your humanistic responsibility to say, hey, I know a way that you could probably, tackle this and get on the other side of this. Let me talk to you about it. Whether you're a clinician or not, I think that's just our responsibility is in taking care of each other. So to answer your question, yes, it's an ongoing, ongoing feedback that I get about how much I disclose as a clinician.
Thank you. And as we close up, wrap up here, I heard the kind of theme that we're all human and we all have things that we process and that we deal with. If you had to share something with someone who may be struggling but afraid to talk about and afraid to find someone to talk about, could you give us what your thoughts are, the importance of being able to have what I would call courageous conversations around this, or writing, right? Because sometimes writing can be therapeutic, right? You guys write, but to be able to get things out and seek to understand yourself to be able to address mental health and mental wellness. And we can start with Kandwani.
I would say, honestly, like I know it sound good in rap songs and in books and on records, but, and again, like I'm privileged enough to have a family, a group of friends. Like, I really don't care. Like, I don't give a bleep, you know what I mean? Because I know that if I jump out the porch, no matter how high I jump out the window, even if I hurt nobody around me is gonna let me stay there forever. I can't die. I can't be, I'm never gonna be homeless. I'm never gonna be starving. And that's a privilege in a way, you know what I mean? But I do have that. So I really don't care. I don't care, like I really don't. I do what I want every day. Literally every day. I do what I want. So it's like, I just always been that way. Like, I grew up poor. What do I have to lose? Be more poor? It's only one way up. You know what I mean? So it's like, so people be like, people would come to me and be like, come Dwani Fidel, I love your work. Please don't stop. I'm like, stop and do what? Did you read my last I said that's the only thing I'm good at. What else I'm gonna do? I ain't about to be the guy on the basketball court. Yeah, I would have went to the, and would have went. Like, you out here with me at Passing Park drinking a still out of a brown paper bag. We don't want to hear that. You ain't get it done. You know what I mean? So I really don't care. Like, I literally am going to get buried, cremated, whatever, doing what I love to. On my tombstone is going to be what I do right now. I'm 30 years old, and I've been, this year made my 10-year mark. From the first time I performed in 2013 at Virginia State campus, I was a sport management major. Can't nobody tell me nothing. I jump out, I walk through a door if it's open, and if I don't like what's in there, I just walk back out. But people really be scared. People let fear dictate they decisions. I don't care. Whether it don't matter what state I'm in, whatever. I mean, if like the time I'm walking on glass, I would be crawling on glass, whatever. But I'm gonna keep moving. You know what I mean? I just don't care. Like, I just look at what I believe in. You know what? You know, my grandmother made me believe in her. She saved my life. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's always at the forefront. I just try not to forget what that start was, like why I'm doing this. And that's it. And everything else is out the window. I really don't like, and I be telling people that, like, I don't care. And they be like, well, and I be like, looking, I'm like, I'm trying to go get a sandwich. Like, why are you still talking to me? Like, I really don't care. And it's like, I lie, I'm lying. I'm telling the truth, I'm lying. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, this is what's on my mind. This is my oracle. Like I say, my friends and family. And that's what keep me going. You know what I mean? And I'm just blessed and privileged and grateful that, you know, I have a group of people around me, you know, that literally protect me, you know, make sure I'm good, that I learn from, and that, you know, keep me going.
D.
So the question is, what, what do we tell a person who's holding something in?
Yeah,
Was
who's
that the
trying to
question?
process their own mental health and trying to figure out how to express themselves or find someone to talk to. And, you know, we all have our things that we're dealing with. What would you share?
When I was a kid, my grandma used to always say, "You may be the only Bible that someone reads," and I didn't know what she meant until I got a little older, obviously. And with that, I would say that we're not on this earth alone for a reason. One of the things that connect all of us is pain. Everybody's feeling something. Everybody been through something. Everybody's had some kind of anxiety about something. So you don't know who can help you. Not saying jump on the internet and just start pouring your feelings out to any person who clicks on your page, but but you know, talk to the people in your circle, talk to your friends, talk to your loved ones, talk to any person who you feel comfortable with, because you never know. They might be holding something back that you might even get an opportunity to help them. You might go in looking for some guidance and you might end up helping them, or they may have some experience dealing with some things that you are struggling through, and they might have those words and that guidance. So I would say don't be ashamed, because we all feel it, from the most successful person in the world to the people who feel like time is running out and they don't have anyone to turn to. We all share pain, and we're all responsible for helping to push and pull each other forward.
Jennifer?
I would say we are not put on this earth to just suffer. We deserve to have peace. We deserve to have relief. And we deserve to experience joy. I think that anybody that's going through mental health challenges or issues, that's a heavy, heavy weight to walk around with every day. And you have to know that you deserve to be happy. And there is a way to do that. I think that addressing your mental health issues will help you become a better person. So you'll be able to be in relationships with other people in your family, romantic relationships, friendships. You'll be better to them. And when you're better to them, you build your communities and you build your world to be safer. You build your world to be more resilient. You build your world to be more peaceful. And I think that it all starts with you making that decision within yourself to say, I deserve peace. I went to an event with Be Good, and one of the speakers said something that really, really resonated with me, and he said, prioritize your joy. Prioritize your joy. And when I tell you, that hit me so hard. So you have to prioritize your healing and your joy. So if you have to go to a mental health professional to do that, because you deserve it. We wear our pain as a badge of honor, almost like D. Watkins said, I got more pain than you, so I'm greater than you. I've experienced more than you. But what we don't understand is as much pain as you are enduring, if you're not healing that pain, you are killing yourself slowly. You're your own murderer. So understanding that we deserve that. We deserve that joy. We deserve that happiness. We deserve that peace. We deserve that relief. And you can't tell me any different. Once you make have that conversation with yourself and you start to see how your relationships change, those toxic people start, dropping, I promise you the sun will be a little bit brighter, the air gonna smell a little bit better, you gonna bite into your food and like, dang, I didn't know this tastes this good. It's important that you do that. And like I said, we all deserve to have that kind of life. You have to believe that we are here to experience joy. You deserve it.
Wow. You guys heard it here. You deserve to have joy. Be willing to talk to the people around you because they're probably experiencing similar things, and have the courage to share your story regardless of what other people might think. You heard it from these three amazing Baltimore artists. Thank you all for joining us today.
I want to introduce our Executive Director of the Patients Program, Dr. Daniel Mullins.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Some people in Baltimore woke up this morning, saw the sun, walked outside, and thought it was a perfect day. Maybe some of you thought that too. I was on my way over here today and kind of hoping things would go well, knowing that I have an awesome team that had put this together. And I'm really happy with how today went. I hope that in some ways this touched each of you and gave you some things to think about. But a lot of people also woke up this morning and they weren't having a perfect day. And some of the people who came in today, I know what's going on in your life. Some of you, I don't know what's going on in your life. And I know some of you are not having a perfect day. Some of you aren't feeling well. I appreciate you being here. I know that some people every day feel that nobody's listening. Some people really feel that nobody wants to hear what I have to say. I'm very proud of the patients team that you just saw because we understand that people need to be heard. We understand that people don't feel well every day. And so in closing, since Rodney thanked the amazing, amazing panelists for today, I'd ask you to do me one favor. Give it up for the staff who every day the staff of the Patients Program listen. And I can tell you the number of emails and phone calls I've gotten from people who are touched by those staff who say, I feel like for the first time somebody was really listening to me, and I really appreciate your staff and what they do. So it's an honor for me to have the amazing people you just saw up here, and I thank all of you.